Welcome back. This is episode 7 of Lee County Unscripted, and today we are here with Megan O'Grady. She is the president and founder of Blue Line Bears. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you for having me.
We are so excited to have you today.
I remember like it was yesterday, the first time I saw you on the news doing what you do when you were a little girl then.
How old were you?
I started when I was 14.
Okay.
Yeah, you were young, and I remember you. So go ahead and explain what Blue Line Bears is and, and the whole premise behind it.
Yeah, we're a nonprofit, and we make teddy bears out of the uniform shirts of fallen police officers to give to their families. My dad has been working for the Cape Coral Police Department for I don't even know how many years.
A long time.
Longer than
I've
I've
worked
been
with him.
around. Yeah. He only has a couple years left,
So he's got to be
actually.
close to retirement.
Yeah. He's super excited about that.
He probably knows it by like the day, the hour, everything
He
ready
has like
to
a
go.
countdown on his phone.
Yeah.
But he's been working for them for forever, really. And so I kind of like always grew up around police officers, which has just been such an experience. I love them, but they're just so silly.
Valid.
So he used to like train police officers, so they would come over to our house for dinner, stuff like that. And then when I was 14 and going from middle school into high school, that was when the attack on Dallas happened and 5 officers were shot and killed. And it just created this kind of like different series of events that all ended up leading to me being like, all right, this is what I want to do. I have to do something for the families. There's not enough out there to help the families right now. What can I do? And then I came up with the idea.
So how many teddy bears have you made personally?
Right now we're at about 17 to 1,800 bears.
Which is 17, 18,
Too many.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. And for you to be able to do that, 14 years old to like have that premonition, like this is what needs to be done for these people. Because it is, everyone's there in the beginning when somebody passes away, and then it's like it slowly fades away, and then you're there with your own thoughts. And if you have something you can grab onto, literally. And hold close to you.
That's kind of like where the idea came from. When I was 5, my great grandma died, and the only thing that I really have to like remember her by is a stuffed animal. So that's how the idea came about, because it is that thing where I think that there's always an outpouring of support in the beginning, and then people kind of forget. And that was something that I worry about, where it's like they shouldn't ever be forgotten for making that sacrifice. So I wanted something that could be like passed down generation to generation.
So this is a nonprofit here, local in Lee County, that was founded, and everything is funded essentially through Lee County, but through businesses and other donators here, right? So you've gone from very small to something much larger.
Yes.
And your 5th annual gala.
Yes.
So you've done 5 galas.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
Thank you.
And so this year is going to have 370 attendees.
About
370 attendees. Like, how did you get to that point, right? Like, where did that all come from? Like, I'm intrigued.
We've been around for 8 years, but we've only done 5 galas.
Yep.
So right around the time that I was a junior, about to be a senior in high school, my board and I had like a very candid conversation where it was like, I'm going to college and we need to figure out what the plan is for that. Someone had mentioned a gala, and then it just kind of happened. Like, it was like, we should do a gala. And then all of a sudden we were like 3 or 4 months into planning it. And I was like, oh my gosh,
we're doing
this. We are doing a gala. So we started out at the Borough Home that's in downtown Fort Myers. And then it just slowly started growing. And the West End is where it's at now. And that's been, this will be our 3rd year doing it there. But yeah, it keeps on growing. And I mean, I think that one of the really great things about Lee County, nonprofits are set to thrive here.
For sure.
I think there's such a good like local community and local support. We are very interconnected with a lot of like other police nonprofits and stuff. And we are one of the only ones that has the local support that we do.
That's
like,
surprising for police. I would figure that more would support local police, and
not really. It's actually super surprising how little support there is out there for nonprofits.
That's sad.
So of the 17, 18 bears that you've made, how many of those families stay in contact with you?
A good amount.
Yeah.
I think that it's always kind of like difficult to gauge the communication just because you don't know where they're at in their healing.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys remember Adam Jobbers
Oh,
Miller.
I do.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, his dad, we still see him like all the time, and his sister, like they're awesome, and we see them all the time, and they'll just stop by. My dad sees them at work. They'll just like stop by random places. So they're still like super involved in the community, which is awesome. So we see them a lot. I mean, all over the world, we still hear from families, which is really cool. Yeah.
So what's the next 5 to 10 years look like for your organization, right? Like, where do you go from here? What is your ultimate goal?
I think our ultimate goal is just to continue.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, I think we're at a really good spot right now where we're still being able to do exactly what we want to do. We have a really awesome staff. Like, we have a shop down in Cape Coral, and it's just awesome.
Where's your shop in Cape Coral?
Santa Barbara.
Like
Boulevard.
somebody can
It's
walk
like,
in?
Yeah, it's over by, it's 3032 Santa Barbara Boulevard. It's in like a little plaza.
Okay.
It's
I
nice.
did not know that.
No, me either.
We have a few employees, and they are all friends, and it's great. So I think that the plan is really just to keep on keeping on, really. Because, I mean, we're enjoying where we're at now.
Do you think that starting this not-for-profit had any bearing into where you're going with your schooling? Do you think that like that kind of led into like why you are in the career that you're in?
Oh, absolutely.
I guess tell people what you do.
Yeah, so I'm in school right now. I'm in my master's degree to be an art therapist. And I think that I chose to do that because I had been around. So we make bears for line of duty deaths and suicide.
Oh, okay.
And so I've been very aware of the toll of the job, really. And I think that there's something that snapped in me after a couple of years of Blue Line Bears where I was like, I want to be preventative care as well. I want to be on the other side of things, trying to stop some of this crisis.
Yes. 'Cause
That's
we
what
actually
I'm
have
working towards.
More deaths in law enforcement from suicide than we do in
Yeah.
the line of duty.
Yeah, and I think that that's just devastating.
It is.
So I mean, that's my primary goal as a future art therapist is to work with
So I love
PTSD.
where you're going with that, right? Like if you have the ability to, like we can, I'm very rarely am I left speechless, and you kind of left me speechless right here. Like it does not happen very often. Like I am so intrigued and enthralled with the way your brain is working, of being able to give families closure from what you started out to, but how and where you're progressing to. It's definitely hard for families to lose a loved one because of like you kind of it's understood it could happen.
Yeah.
As a law enforcement officer, like we leave the house. Like Kim's husband is a police officer. I retired, but we understand that it could happen. But it's the suicide part that should never happen.
Yes.
There should be help for that earlier on. And I mean, it's not mandated, but something to be done in concurrent with their careers versus like, hey, if you got a problem, let us know. Like a little check-in, yearly check-in would probably be helpful as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sadly, there's nothing. It's all self-reported, right? Like you have to go seek the help out yourself with the agencies. And I'm sure there's some agencies around the country, and I'd love to know which agencies around the country are being proactive and how we can bring that model here and maybe kind of align with what you're doing as your nonprofit.
Yeah.
But everything is self-reported. And so I really like the way you're going with that, with the suicide part of
And
that.
who,
Thank
as
you.
an officer, wants to, go to their colleague and be like, hey, I'm having a problem? That's like a very intimate thing to say. So it's like they have to find help outside.
There's also a lot of stigma around it. I mean, you step up and you say, like, I'm having a problem right now. They don't think you're fit to work.
Right.
You're off duty.
And so I think that's a big barrier to getting the help that's needed. And that's something that, like, as someone who's in the field, it is really disappointing to see that it's just an automatic something's wrong rather than, okay, let's work and figure out how to fix it before it becomes a bigger problem.
Because that's their identity. You're literally stripping them from their identity. A lot of these officers, that's how they eat, breathe, and sleep. It's you're an officer. And then you strip that from them and they're like, well, I'm a shell of somebody. I'm not the person I was. And now how do I get back there so quickly? Do I, try to just hurry up and get on medication to feel, right again? Or do I work through the proper steps to get there?
Yeah.
We all know as officers when we're working, like what it essentially takes to get cleared by the psychiatrist after a traumatic event, right? But what we do a really poor job in law enforcement is identifying, like, how do we get ahead of it so it doesn't, like, the pot doesn't just spill over and kind of sneak up on us, right?
Yeah.
So I like that.
For your gala, is it a themed gala? How?
It's kind of just like a black tie formal event. We call it the Bears and Badges Gala.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
It's a cute little like play on words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's not like a super specific theme, but we do have families coming from all over the country.
Oh, wow. So people that you've helped.
And this year we're delivering bears for 5 families.
Okay. So these families have lost a loved one in the line of duty.
Yes.
Or suicide. And now you're going to present them with the bears at your gala.
Yes.
That's amazing. So I think there's so many things that we haven't touched base on what you guys do and like bringing them here. And I mean, we live in a gorgeous place. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
So, it's like a little bit of like an escape for them and, some closure, getting their bear. That's amazing work.
Yeah. We're pretty excited. It'll be 2 families from New York, 2 from Chicago, and then actually Elio Diaz's family.
Oh, yeah. That's close to home.
Local. It's close to home. Yeah.
Yeah. It's especially close to home for us because my dad used to work for Charlotte County before he went to the Cape. So it's definitely really close to home there.
And it's so sad to say this, but it's happening more and more with a lack of respect for police officers throughout the entire country. There's a big division of support versus defund and all that. So seeing more officers, fallen officers in the line of duty is just, heartbreaking because if it's your loved one that's out there on patrol or, whatever, you just hope every single day that like they're coming home to you. You say goodbye. You just pray that they come home every single night. And it shouldn't be like that, but it is. And we have to deal with.
How do you keep it all together? I don't mean the foundation. I mean you personally. How do you keep it all together when you're presenting these teddy bears, right? Like that's a lot to process.
A lot of times I don't. Like I do let myself be emotional.
Be human.
And I think that makes me a better person for letting myself do that rather than like trying to put myself in this little box of like you can't feel about this. But honestly, a lot of it's therapy. Like I'm very transparent about like I love going to therapy and talking about these things and being able to break it down and process like it is kind of in a way a burden, but one that I want to carry. But you are carrying a lot of that loss as well. It's like secondhand grief in a way almost.
100%. And so like, you kind of touched upon it a little bit of like, so what do you do to get rid of some of that burden for yourself, right? Because you're taking on a lot and your staff is taking on a lot to be able to perform at that high level.
So my staff is actually mostly family. I think a lot of it is just having those conversations with each other of like, it is really difficult sometimes. And it's okay to need to take a break from it for a little bit. And it's okay to need to just do whatever it is that you need to do to be better. Because, I mean, a lot of that is also like self-care and like doing something that makes you happy. Like my mom does a lot of the embroidery. And while it's kind of like a more passive task than like physically like cutting the shirts or something, it still is taxing. And so I'm like, the embroidery will be there tomorrow. Like, watch a TV show. You're okay. And so a lot of it is just being transparent and being like, I need to take a break for a little bit.
So it's 8 years and almost 1,800 bears.
1800.
1,800.
Holy God bless. I thought you said 18.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. I just threw up a little bit.
Yes.
1,800 bears.
Yeah. It's funny because when I started, I thought it would be like 18 bears.
Yeah.
And then it just like, it was crazy. I did my first bear delivery in Orlando. And then some newscasters, I guess, caught up on it. And after that, it just kind of like blew up. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, I know someone who could benefit from this. Yeah, that was like a weird transition going from like 18 to 1800.
Wow.
Speechless again.
Yeah. What's the furthest country or furthest place you've had to deliver one or send one out to be delivered?
Afghanistan.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he worked for, I think it was the DEA out there.
Okay.
And yeah, we mailed those.
So sad.
I didn't go to Afghanistan.
No. When,
No, I wanna
but we just did some for France as well. We've done it for England, Malta, which I honestly never heard of prior to this. I think we've hit 46 or 47 states.
Really?
So
what's the easiest way? Like, so there's going to be people that are watching this from various portions of the country. What's the easiest way for someone to contact you if there's an in-line to duty death or a suicide? What's the easiest way for someone to contact you and your staff?
through the website, bluelinebears.org.
Okay.
They have a form on there, actually, and the form goes directly to us, and we just answer. It takes us a day or two sometimes, but yeah,
that's
we
how
do answer.
we connected, was through your form. And it is very simple. But I just like, because there are some people that don't know that this is an option. And if we can help some grieving children or spouses or parents or whoever, I want to make sure that we can get what you're doing out to them.
Yes, absolutely.
So I do have a different question. Like, I know what it's like to be a police officer. I understand from like the spousal side of things, but I've never asked a child in law enforcement what it's like growing up as a child of a parent in law enforcement.
I think I grew up at like an interesting time to be the child of a law enforcement officer, because I grew up on the cusp of when things were not tense to then they were.
So pre-George Floyd into George Floyd.
Yeah, I felt that entire shift through my entire childhood. Like when I was a little kid, I honestly didn't think anything about it. Like my dad would have his trainees over and I would just be like, yeah, that's he's here for dinner. Like,
right.
Yeah. So that was like my normal, like it was normal to me. And then I started like growing up and getting a little bit older. And my mom's a school principal and my dad's a police officer. So I didn't get away with anything.
no.
And
everyone knew your business.
Yes. Yeah. Into that transition from like middle school into high school, a lot of it was like, oh, your dad's a cop. You're like unapproachable. Stuff like that. And
You
I
can't,
was like,
nobody can date me. Like,
yeah. Some of my friends would be like,
oh, I don't want to go to Europe.
One of my friends now, since I've been friends with him since high school, and he's still terrified of my dad. It's so funny.
Why?
I don't know. My dad just has that presence sometimes, I think.
I think it's a cop thing. I do. I think people that respect cops are intimidated by them at some point in time because they're like, oh.
It's a respect thing. Like, it's not at all intimidation. It's just like, he respects my dad a lot, and so he'll be like, "Hi, Mr. O'Grady," and then that's like kind of that's kind of it.
We're intense when we need to be,
yeah,
and then
at home
every time else we're human. We're a bunch of joking goofballs.
I was gonna say my dad is like goofiest guy ever, and so I think like going back to your question, I think that's like what was difficult for me is I saw the political change, the climate, or like the political climate changing. And I was like, I don't understand. Like I was in probably like middle school when it started getting bad and I just didn't comprehend it. You're telling me that guy over there is like the problem? And so I think I got a little bit confused for a while, and then as it got worse and worse and worse, I started noticing that a lot of the attacks encompassed us as well. Like I would be at school and someone would say something to me where they would be like, "Oh, it's baby pig." And I would just be like, "Yep,
Sure is.
yeah." And I'd be like,
What do you say to that?
yeah. And so I think, and I mean, I'm in college now, and even then, like I try really hard not to talk about like my dad or the nonprofit because I don't ever know how
Where
it's
people
going to
stand.
be received. So I tend to be a little more quiet about it as far as like my time in college, just for the preservation of myself. It was really hard because I also like didn't really think about my dad dying in the line of duty when I was a kid, mostly because it was more like accidents and
that's the greatest
health
thing.
related
Yeah.
crises and things like that, and now it's a lot more attack
Yep.
based. And I think that was a really hard transition, is
Yeah.
going from that to, oh my gosh, it could be like completely intentional and there's no way of knowing who it's going to be.
Yeah, there's no like signs or anything. It's just so, you know, I started dating my husband back in 2018, and I was like, oh, he's, you know, a cop, City of Cape Coral. Okay, no big deal. It's City of Cape Coral. But they do a really good job of shielding you about the crime in the city, so you don't know. So I was like, oh, it's not like you're a cop in, you know, some other city with a lot of crime. And he's like, no, it's there's, you know, bad things that go on. And I'm like, and I never knew anything about it until I started, you know, getting more serious with him and learning and going, oh, okay, like your life is in danger every time you stop somebody on the side of the road. And
Yeah.
and that's the biggest fear is like, I mean, he always puts himself in a good position, but still there's so many people around. There's so unknown what somebody can do.
Absolutely.
And so I was kind of the opposite of you. I jumped into it at the bad time in like 2018. And I was like, oh, okay, this isn't just your normal 9-to-5 job or, you know, 12 on, 12 off. This is your life being endangered all the time. And I found so much more respect for first responders, not just police officers, but first responders in general. Once, you know, I started dating one and figuring out the background of it.
For us, when we're responding to calls like something that's severe, like a shooting or a stabbing or something, carjacking, we're ultra sensitive, ultra high, right? Like we are on edge going there.
You're checking all the boxes in your head.
In our head. And like, yes, car accidents are probably the number one still, I believe, for in line of duty deaths. Those are some things that people just don't pay attention to, lights and sirens.
Yeah.
It is the traffic stops or the domestic violence or the, like those Dallas officers that were just sitting eating breakfast, where somebody's like, today's the day, and you just never know. And it's sad that we live in a society where that exists. So I want to go back to one thing where you said earlier where you don't bring up what you do. And I know that's a conscious decision.
Yes.
And I respect that. For me personally, I want you to scream it from the mountaintops. I want you to scream it from the mountaintops because you have done something that is so significant that you should be proud of. And I know you're proud of it, but I don't want you to ever hide it because you think of what some students or some people are going to say because it represents law enforcement.
Yeah.
Like your parents have done an amazing job raising you.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure they'd say thank you.
No, you're much wiser than your age. Okay, you've accomplished a lot of things. You are essentially a very successful nonprofit into a business where you're employing people locally and you're providing a service to. Do you think you'll ever go into firefighters?
We have done a couple, actually.
Or EMS and paramedics, EMTs and paramedics?
I don't think we've ever had any requests for them. That's more something that we do a little more like low key, like that.
Sure.
The main mission is law enforcement,
Sure.
but we don't ever turn down any other ones.
Right. I'm not trying to open Pandora's box on you.
No, no. I think that's like to answer the 5 to 10 year question.
Okay.
I think that would be the next step, would be expanding into like all first responders instead of just law enforcement.
Yeah, I love that. And keep going with the. I want to bring more awareness to the state, but here locally about the suicide and the mental health aspect. Like I am a big proponent in of that, of getting to that and identifying it and putting something in place, because our local leaders do not do enough for the men and women that are out there every single day.
And we've had a few people on the podcast that have touched on, you know, suicide, PTSD, things like that. So it seems like it always comes up in our podcast, you know, even
We're
though
morbid.
I know we are, we are, even though we don't like it's Lee County Unscripted and we're trying to bring in, you know, every facet of the county, not just something to do with law enforcement. It ends up leading there. There's a connection somehow, some way. And it keeps being brought up, PTSD, you know, suicide rates, stuff like that. So what you're doing is, you know, like Mike said, I think you should scream it from the rooftops and not care what other people think. But I understand in your line of work, you have to be sensitive and not have, you know, a stigma on you of, oh, this is all she believes in.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a double-edged sword for you. But I am local and I didn't know, you know, Blue Line Bears, what it did and what it was. And I was like kind of disappointed in myself for not knowing that.
Lee County has so many nonprofit organizations, and we've talked about them a little bit here, but there's so many out there that I think people within, and this is part of the reason why Kim and I want to do this, is highlighting what's here in Lee County. Well, you know, we talked about this off camera of like the Valerie's house, and that just one example of like things that are offered in Lee County. I don't know if they're offered in other parts of the country.
Honestly, I lived in Orlando for my undergraduate, and then I'm living in Tallahassee right now. I can definitively say that in both of those places, the nonprofit sector is completely underdeveloped. There's pretty much nothing in Tallahassee, which is really surprising for the Florida capital.
Yeah. The only thing that made me think maybe why we're here, we have more nonprofits, is because we have a large retirement demographic here, retirees. And, you know, maybe they have the wealth to do that and support and time to go to those things.
Oh, yeah.
Where other people are more tied up in the day-to-day working hustle. Orlando is a very busy city as well as Tallahassee. So I can't imagine there's not the money. I think it's maybe time.
I think a lot of it is also both of those cities are cities that people don't typically like settle down into.
They're transient cities, yeah.
Going through like several of the leadership classes for the county, and I don't mean by it through the sheriff's office, I mean like through the Chamber of Commerce and the Board of Realtors and stuff. The nonprofits that we went to, actually, they're more younger based, right? Like they're for women and children and homeless, and the Blue Line Bears and Valerie's house, which we'll talk about at some point in time. And then like the food banks, like there's so many food banks like Harry Chapin and what they do and how like the different food sources that they reach out to. I just think that our community is very localized and community driven, and we want to be able to provide services to our everyone that lives here.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining episode 7 of Lee County Unscripted. Thanks to Megan O'Grady for representing Blue Line Bears. Thank you for what you do for our community. You're going to kill me right here.
Yeah.
Law enforcement is really important to me, right? So it's not even little. The stuff that you're doing has so much weight that goes behind it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. Come on back. I won't be like this next time, I promise.
Hold it together.